This video contains disturbing content related to human trafficking. Viewer discretion is advised. What is cannibalism and why is it a old world order thing? What is getting shanghaied and what does it mean? There are dozens of reasons to traffic in humans. They are infinitely more profitable than trafficking in any other thing. Even gold or nuclear materials. It has always existed. And as long as people don't eternally prosecute that evil, it will continue to exist. It's a battle that never ends. Every generation will have people who rise to power and figure out that they can do it. Or that it might be possible and might work. And then makes it happen. The devil convincing you it doesn't exist. Maybe each group doesn't touch down with a millennia-old institution that may or may not exist that controls all of civilization. But the idea that each institution doing this is not trying to get to that point is laughable. Each Illuminati group is trying to get itself beyond the cycles of cataclysm. The next extinction event. They want to retain all their science and knowledge and use it to rule over you. The fact that this is their motivation should tell you that you need to treat it as an ongoing conspiracy. Because that's what it intends to be. Is the Illuminati that orchestrated the Great Recession and World War I the same faction that orchestrates all of our bullshit today 100 years later in 2020? It wants to be that permanent. And that's all you need to know. Human trafficking has always existed. Modern China's organ trade is more or less common knowledge by now. But I always thought that was for just monetary gain. Is there anything esoteric to it or something that connects with other parts of the NWO? Maybe each group doesn't touch down with a millennia-old institution that may or may not exist that controls all of civilization. But the idea that each institution doing this is not trying to get to that point is laughable. So you think that the Chinese are competing with other parts of the NWO rather than cooperating or even being connected to them? Both. That's how the whole Illuminati works. It's a king of the hill on a mountain of mud. If the pinnacle looks weak, then other will make a move. That's how most criminal syndicates work. Except for ones with religious commandments, which is where Satanism and other institutions succeed. For instance, without the corruption of the Catholic Church, Judaism and Satanism, without the FBI taking out the mafia at a critical point, the Ndrangheta could never rise to power. The pinnacle always pretends to be thousands of years old, and claims to know the true history of man. Another thing that people don't think about is where this opponent is. Communists talk about taking the money from them as if it's sitting around in bank accounts. Really, the money is in play. It's everywhere and in everything. The same with the agents. They are everywhere, and in everything, including the earth. You think you could get a team together and assault some castle, take out a lord and get some gold and rescue some kids? That won't work, because they are underground. Like you said about China's organ trade. More or less common knowledge. So are the bunkers for the elites. But this is young money. The real elite use ancient catacombs and natural cave systems that have existed for thousands of years. There are tunnels underneath each city. And this is where the enemy really is. You would have to map the tunnels, invade them, cut them off, clear them piece by piece, and then reinforce them and hold them. That would be a huge effort. The population of subterranean populations is 100 million. 30 million are slaves. The memes about inner earth are funny. It's real but not a donut shape. It's caves. Hell is real too. The megacity down there is a problem. Over 28 battalions have been trained to fight underground, but it may not be enough. A lot of commanders think they will not see that kind of combat. But they will. They are going down there. This is going to take years.
Checked. This guy knows. It's a race to the finish on all fronts. There also may well be esoteric reasons behind the abduction/trafficking of organs and bodies. Why else would the pharaohs have had their important bits buried separately from their bodies, more or less?
Exactly. The new ruling faction would want nothing more than to take the previous ruler's heart and other organs and use them in rituals, eat them, or otherwise defile them. Esoteric magic possible, cannibalism, whatever. They did it to protect from their own. A graveyard represents that we don't defile our own people. A civilization without one was built to be farmed, Egypt. proper burial takes on huge religious significance because of this. It's almost backwards to the norm. It prevents your opponents from cursing the body, our one body, casting spells with it, consuming it, etc. However, the beer angle is not well known about. Haven't you noticed that beer brewers have royal seals on their work? The seal also say things like, established in 1800 whatever. Well, if you have a population to feed, why would you bake so much bread? Bread goes bad. If you brew beer, it will last much longer. Ale is like liquid bread. If you brew it correctly, it can be very heavy and full of carbs. You can sort of feed people like that, and keep them sorta drunk and malleable. So each royal family will brew beer for their people, to keep them fed and drunk and stupid. But who is the crest for, if the beer is for the pleb? The crest is for the royal. An elite abroad today knows just where to buy his pizza, and where not to buy it. You don't want mystery meat pizza, or maybe you do. You won't know what is in each person or in each city-state's beer without seeing the royal crest on it. When an elite walks into a bar and sees a certain crest, he knows the cattle in the bar belong to a certain family, and that the beer they drink was made just for them, to make them more consumable during human trafficking. You wouldn't want to drink a certain faction's beer if you knew who made it and how they like to do business. The acorn that the reclaimer bears, the mystic fucking pinecone you all can't decipher, is hops. The secret of taking a fledgling agricultural society and turning its bread into beer and its free people into your personal cattle. The other thing about the royal crest on the beer is understanding where those people will go if they are shanghaied through a trapdoor in a bar. They serve a certain beer with a certain crest, so you can see what family is taking the people who disappear, so you will know who is boss as you travel around. It's out in the open, just their style. I would also like to add that there are several types of tunnels, not just trapdoors in bars and saloons that take people. There are natural cave systems, there are border tunnels, there are underground military bases, there are vacuum-sealed hypertransport tunnels, there are underground scientific institutes, there are historical architectural catacombs like Seattle or almost all of Europe and Asia, there are subway and train tunnels, there are secret society tunnels, there are underground railroad tunnels. Every faction occupied tunnels at some point, and or cut new ones. As various allied forces engage with tunnel snakes under the guise of counter-narcotics operations and counter-human trafficking ops, eventually the battalions will be exposed to things they were not supposed to see. Children and rumors of children that are happening right now are one thing. But there are allegedly other facilities. It's entirely possible that a breach team makes it into a biolab and catches a disease, then they have to seal the tunnel. They could also find monsters, and I don't mean zombies in the sense of Resident Evil, but monsters in the sense of Resident Evil. Genetically engineered animals. It will be almost impossible to contain certain things, and the deaths in these tunnels will be catastrophic. It will take decades to clear them all and map them and disclose them. I'd almost rather fill them all up with concrete, but a lot of the deepest tunnels are over 12,000 years old. There is more to gain, from the government's perspective, to turn hell into an archaeological dig. So be it. You are sharing conspiracies of a fifth age, filled with magic and monsters, wondering when and where they will come from. They were under your feet the whole time. You thought being a paladin or a warrior of light would mean confronting people, face to face, and it does mean that. It also means climbing into something the size of an air duct to literally fight demons in the dark. The human horrors are bad enough. The scene in the movie The Road, where they find the people being kept alive in the basement for food, that's what some of these tunnels are like. There may have been a large gallery with a large entrance and a complex network, but it was sealed off except for an air tunnel that's 1,000 feet long and only 10 inches by 10 inches. The Marines had to climb through natural caves for 6 hours just to find that 10-inch portal, so they get a small drone and send it down there. And when it pops out the other side, it's a room and people are screaming and roaring. But the drone has no visual. The thing is, the people wouldn't be screaming unless the drone went down there. They could have been down there for years, surviving on their own excrement, chewing their own arms off, babbling to each other. There are even babies conceived and born in these conditions. They even grow up and turn into little monsters. Thermals reveal what is really going on. There are no windows, no doors, no lights, no tables, no furniture, just bodies, crawling and riding on top of each other like snakes in a pit. Rescue is a strong word. In the road, when they opened the door, the people tried to fucking eat him and pull him in just as much as they tried to escape. The sight of them, their skin, their eyes, their deformities, scars a person for life. There are 32 million like that down there. If you believe the 28 battalions that are running offs down there, they actually set off detonations that mimic earthquakes. The shock waves makes very unique incidental harmonics because of the long and straight modern machine-cut tunnels. On a seismograph, it's unlike any other curve you've ever seen. Even an earthquake wobbles back and forth, and it dissipates. Tunnel shock waves roll in one smooth motion from one end to the other, which is how you find them. You would think that they could use thermal or ground-penetrating radar or even X-ray or something, satellites, to find the tunnels and the people down there. However, with the other billions of us on the surface driving around, working and living, you can't discern what is on the terrain and what is subterranean. You would have to stop the whole world and tell them to go home in order to use machines to image the tunnels from outside. I honestly don't think that's what is happening here though. Like I said, rescue is a strong word. These people won't have a language. They won't fundamentally understand anything and will be completely feral. You can't put them on TV. They don't understand. You would think that missing children who remember what it was like to take the Pledge of Allegiance is like we remember home. But those kids are taken for programs that end in death. Most are sacrificed. Others cut apart and sent out to organ trafficking. Some kept for breeding programs or genetic modification. It's too much of a liability to take a viable critical thinking surface dweller and put them in these systems. They might find a way out or lead the others. Not there is anywhere to go. In the case of the 10 inches chute, when the faction that put them there lost power, they probably sealed it up just to torture them some more. And who knows how long they have really been down there. Even after blasting towards it, the experience of reaching the gallery is only more and more frightening for the Marines. The closer they get to the gallery, the louder their absolutely chilling screams and noises become. As you get to the last 20 feet of the chute, all you can see is arms reaching into it, clawing at each other, peeling at skin and biting. All you see is teeth and disfigured hellish faces. The Marines don't want to breach to completion. The horde in the gallery will attack and try to eat them or something. As you watch the portal through a spotlight, you can smell them. The instinct to take your weapon system to condition zero is unlike anything you will ever experience in your life. Just witnessing the teeming massive, not human causes shock in hardened veterans and causes foxhole conversions in the Psych Champlain, who now openly prays to God, murmuring not under his breath but out loud. You can't experience these things, fighting this level of evil, and the opponent isn't even there to take the blows. It really destroys you. These things stop you from sleeping at night, knowing what really happens to the 800,000 missing children in the United States every year, knowing that it happens right below your feet. And you try to drown your sorrows, but the sigil on Budweiser is the same sigil on the tunnels that give you the worst nightmares, the ones you have while you are still awake. Let me make one thing clear. If you are a warrior of light, then it was your destiny to descend into these cramped tunnels like Master Chief in some American power armor and eviscerate whatever lies in front of you. Don't you find it odd that in fantasy settings or hellscapes, a paladin or other righteous character frees lost souls or saves them? In hell, by vanquishing them, you kill them. That's how you rescue them. You can't bring them out. They bit you. They roar. They drool. They growl. They are animals. They hiss and bare their teeth. They fling excrement at you. Even if you put them in a cage, you can't reform them. The stuff you see in mental institutions is nothing compared to what happens underground. And the Allied forces did not expect these levels of horrors. When the enemy says, "Think of the children," tongue-in-cheek, that's a cold scare to the warriors of light. Because you can't not think about them. The walking nightmares. Set a few free and you've got a real skinwalker. That's where the monsters come from. That's why you have an instinctive fear of long, skinny, deformed, malnourished, naked, white-fanged freaks. So the question of China's relationship to the NWO, and how old and deep that relationship really is answered with cannibalism. The Chinese have been subjugated for so long that cannibalism is mainstream. They regularly consume humans, especially babies and urine. There are periods of China's history where the archival material is missing, for hundreds of years. We have no idea who farmed them or why and for how long. But we do know that it happened for so long that if you disclose the cannibalistic child rape tunnels beneath the Forbidden City that date all the way to before Persia, the Chinese people will laugh about it, and cook another fetus. That's how deep they are with the old world order, that you can't tell the difference between the Satanists, the Jews, the Nuo, the Illuminati, the Deep State, the Chinese. You can't tell any of them apart at the level China exists on. Hell is a real place, and you can go down there and fight the demons. That's the real red pill of human civilization. China is the eternal reservoir of this evil. Even when the Europeans in Germany were equivalent to cavemen and were scared shitless of Romans, and neither of them knew about the Americas, China had full access to transcontinental human trafficking networks. Their world never underwent the last cataclysm. That's how old China's relationship with this entity really is. The last cataclysm covered the American structures in mud, and the flood waters carved out the Grand Canyon. In Egypt, those same floodwaters ripped the casing stones off the pyramids. China was barely hit. Their operation didn't stop at all. They had access to the Atlantic network the whole time. That's how deep the relationship is. That's all you really need to know. You can't fight that ultimate and ancient evil without getting to China in the end, just like you can't breach tunnels in the Middle East without getting to Hamas at the dead end. What goes on in DUMs? Give me all the info on underground bases you got. AI development, world surveillance, underwater construction, human cloning, animal cloning, splicing/chimera experiments, portal experiments, highest level classified science experiments, high-level neuro-linguistic programming, robotics testing, kidnapping, trafficking, mining, paranormal experiments, world leader meetings, rituals/black masses/altars, high-level executions and assassinations, currency storage, stored history records, blood drinking/adrenochrome storage facilities. These underground military facilities are used for trauma-based mind control/monarch programming, genetic and other human experimentation, military/NWO technology development and storage, including advanced anti-gravity crafts, child/human trafficking, torture, breeding programs, and other fucked up things. Much of this black ops drug money is being used to fund projects classified above top secret. These projects include the building and maintaining of deep-level underground bases, such as the Chrysanthemum Underground Biogenetics Facility in Dulce, New Mexico, Pine Gap in Australia, Brecon Beacons in Wales, Snowy Mountains in Australia, the Nyala Range in Africa, west of Kindu in Africa, next to the Libyan border in Egypt, Mount Blanc in Switzerland, Narvik in Scandinavia, Gotland Island in Sweden. There are at least 1,400 of these DUMBs worldwide, 131 in the US, with 2 underground bases being built per year in the US at the moment. The average depth of the bases are 4¼ miles underground, some shallower and some deeper. The bases are on average the size of a medium-sized city. Each DUMB costs between $17 and $26 billion to build, which is funded by MI6/CIA drug money. A nuclear-powered drill is used to dig underground. This drill goes through rock at a tremendous rate and literally melts the rock away to form a smooth glass-like surface around the edges of the tunnels. Project Mannequin was started in 1972 and is still being run from a 6-level underground facility beneath the small town of Peasmore in Berkshire, a few miles from where I grew up. Also the CLC-1 base under Westminster in London and connected to the large base under Parliament. the Monsoon 1 facility under RAF Lakenheath 90 miles north of London, and the underground facility below the Porton Down biowarfare facility in Wiltshire. This underground base is so secret that the local residents of Peasmore are not even aware it exists. This NSA facility, known in intelligence circles as the OWL/499 base, is located 200 feet below the village. There are entrances to the facility at Greenham Common, known as Bravo Entrance, which is now sealed off, Watchfield Military Science College, Delta Entrance, Harwell Laboratories in Oxfordshire. There are entrances to the base in Lambourne and Welford in Berkshire. The underground base at Lambourne is the Area 51 of the UK, with many exotic, anti-gravity aircraft stored there. The people running the OWL/499 facility in Berkshire and the connected underground bases are a hardline, military regime that is ultimately a religious cult centered around the corrupt Zionists and Rosicrucians. These places are religious centers where so-called black magic rites are performed, ancient deities worshipped, and children trained and sacrificed.
One of the largest research centers for experimental programming is on the west coast of the United States. The large research facility is underground, and is combined with sophisticated MILAB, military laboratory, research. Another is in East Berlin, and another is in Prague in Europe, and yet another one exists in Rome. A large underground facility, located in Czechoslovakia. This facility has numerous altars within it, where sacrifices are done continuously day and night, for the spiritual empowerment of the project. This facility is equipped with high-tech equipment. Mornington Crescent, that London Underground tube station which has been closed since whenever, contains the entrances to British intelligence's tunnels to Illuminati HQ. This is where they all go to perform their satanic rites, not just old World War II secret bunkers. There is also a tunnel under the Thames from MI6 to the Houses of Parliament, a whole underground network that not too many people know about. Underneath the Royal Observatory upon Greenwich Hill there is a large military base, accessible by a trapdoor within the observatory or the Queen Anne's Colonnade House next door to Queen Anne's Garden. People have been abducted, tortured and murdered down there for many decades now and upon Prince Philip's orders, not to mention the child sacrifice that goes on down there.
The underground city below Area 51 is called Zion, or Mars, and it has a mirror underground city also named Zion located in Israel. Valhalla is in northwestern Kansas, underneath Gove County. My training was completed in the USA at age 14 years by Lieutenant Colonel Michael Aquino in a special laboratory established at Dulce underground base. Delta training included the weaponization of psychic ability, or psychic warfare training.
This post is an overview of deep underground military bases, DUMBs. An understanding of what trauma-based mind control programming is and how it works is necessary to understand lots of this. All sources and links at the end. These above top-secret deep-level underground bases are used for trauma-based mind control/monarch programming, experimental programming, genetic and other human experimentation, military/Illuminati/NWO technology development and storage, including advanced weapons and advanced anti-gravity crafts, the highest level scientific and paranormal experiments, military abductions, black ops, child/human trafficking, rape and torture, breeding programs, and other terrible things. There exists a huge network of mag-lev tube shuttle connections under the United States, which extends into a global system of tunnels and underground bases/cities. They are basically whole cities underground. They all are between 2.66 and 4.25 cubic miles in size. They have laser drilling machines that can drill a tunnel 7 miles long in one day. I was involved in building an addition to the deep underground military base at Dulce, which is probably the deepest base. It goes down 7 levels and over 2.5 miles deep. I helped hollow out more than 13 deep underground military bases in the United States. Much of this Black Ops drug money is being used to fund projects classified above top secret. These projects include the building and maintaining of deep-level underground bases, such as the Chrysanthemum Underground Biogenetics Facility in Dulce, New Mexico, Pine Gap in Australia, Brecon Beacons in Wales, Snowy Mountains in Australia, the Nyala Range in Africa, west of Kindu in Africa, next to the Libyan border in Egypt. Mount Blanc in Switzerland, Narvik in Scandinavia, Gotland Island in Sweden. There are at least 1,400 of these DUMBs worldwide, 131 in the US, with 2 underground bases being built per year in the US at the moment. The average depth of the bases are 4¼ miles underground, some shallower and some deeper. The bases are on average the size of a medium-sized city. Each DUMB costs between $17 and $26 billion to build, which is funded by MI6/CIA drug money. A nuclear-powered drill is used to dig underground. This drill goes through rock at a tremendous rate and literally melts the rock away to form a smooth glass-like surface around the edges of the tunnels. I discovered that not only was our government focused on building deep secret cities, but the Illuminati families were also. Furthermore, they were using technology that the public was unaware existed. The idea behind it all was to create safe and secret places for themselves. Witnesses have described elevators going miles down, super-fast trains, backup government agencies, genetic experiments, warehouses of stockpiled materials, and a non-human-human hybrid project. But what continues to haunt me was the look one eyewitness gave me when he said, "Fritz, you don't have a clue. What is going on is beyond all you have thought of." And after that, there was a stone-faced mask on his countenance. Most of these underground bases are funded by the black budget and non-appropriated funds. Intelligence agencies run the global drug trade. Where's this money coming from? It's not coming from our regular black op budget. It's coming from the illegal sale of drugs. In the United States there's at least, by conservative estimates, $250 billion to $500 billion of illegal drugs just sold in the United States that goes directly into underground budgets, and 90 to 95% goes to the DUMs. Black Ops budget is $500 billion per year, a quarter of the U.S. gross national product. Black budget is not monitored by Congress, it's an independent taxing body but is mainly financed by drug operations by the CIA, NSA and the Drug Enforcement Administration, also the FBI more recently. An FBI man tried to tell the public about this and was murdered in January, '95. Many of these underground facilities are equipped with advanced technology used to program slaves and soldiers, especially super soldiers, all Black Ops/Delta/etc. Soldiers are highly programmed. High-tech programming is used along with the blood rituals and extreme mind-splitting traumas, utilizing trip seats, psychological program alteration units, modified sensory deprivation tanks, advanced virtual reality and holograms, harmonics, various surgical and medical alterations, implants and microchips, brainwave scanning, negative sound rooms, machines used to program in specific beliefs and responses, and a number of other sophisticated electronic hardware-based hypnosis machines.
The New World Order relies on these secret bases, the technology developed in them, and their sophisticated mind control technology for their plans. Most people, including most of the so-called patriots, are sincere about defeating the New World Order, but they are really looking in the wrong direction. They need to uncover, expose and alert the people of the world what's going on below the Earth's surface. What if you were to realize that Canada has over 30 DUMs, and its neighbor to the south has over 140 active DUMs? Worldwide, there are now over 1,500 DUMs. Let us assume all North American DUMs are connected below by oxygenated magneto-leviton trains from Krupp, Germany, and are able to reach Mach 2+, having the tunnels vacuumed of air to eliminate air resistance. Do you know that more than 3,000 people have been ended for trying to talk about what goes on in these underground bases? It's basically a death sentence when you start getting too close to the nerve center of the real New World Order's plans. The real heart and soul of the New World Order plan lies in the mysterious underground military bases scattered all over the world. He became privy to this top-secret information when he served as a junior officer in the Canadian Armed Forces in the Aerospace Engineering branch, while working at one of the top-secret deep underground military bases at Cold Lake in Canada. In the US, approximately 140 of these DUM bases exist. A geologist friend of this author, who helped build these DUM bases, Phil Schneider, gave his life to get the truth out to the American people. He was a programmed multiple of the Illuminati, and some of his alters knew it. These underground bases play a vital role in the entire mind control network. There also exist massive underground cities and areas, fully equipped and stocked for harboring a large amount of people for a long time.
I'm primarily using the term slab because this is what they used to describe the town area and what the town area sits on. Each town area was their own slab. This is taken from the fact that the cave area was open and huge, maybe the size of Chicago, New York, and they divided it up and floored it off. 3 football fields long, 6 football fields wide, was the size of the slab. The whole opening was divided up into approximately 10 slabs. This I will assume when taken into that is probably the size of Chicago/New York. The reason I keep calling the area we were in a slab is because that's what they call it and that name stuck. There were many slabs that had X amount of homes on it. Outside of the home it was very spacious. Wasn't cramped even slightly, it was like being anywhere in the US. But just dark of course because you were underground. One thing that was a little strange was that it was like your ears were hearing a hollowed out kinda sound. Very strange, and it is something you would have to experience. It wasn't noise, or a sound. Kinda like empty/filled air all around you. Also, most of the homes were empty. They were owned in full. But it wasn't like people went there on family vacations to hang out. We were only there because my dad's friend needed him at the time. They have the ability to stay underground for centuries, probably till the point they would come out eventually, looking something far from us today. A big function of these bases and underground laboratories is genetic research and every conceivable type of human experimentation, including modified humans, chimera creation, and any and all types of tests and experiments on slaves and embryos. There exist many extremely horrific underground breeding programs in these facilities. Many survivors have also talked about the rows and rows of cages holding humans for terrible experiments and rituals at many of these underground bases. Via molecular biology and genetics, humanoids that are vastly different from normal humans have been created in secret underground installations. They have been created in secret underground installations. They have been modifying humans to design parahumans, and then applying mind control to them. K. Griggs stated the military is cloning humans. That is correct. I saw human cloning being conducted at Dulce and Pine Gap. The bodies are grown to full form in giant test tubes just like in the propaganda film. The 6th day, when I was 6 years old, Gittinger showed me a massive clone army of super soldiers assembled like stormtroopers on the floor of a 3-story plus high auditorium carved beneath Pine Gap. They looked 7 feet tall, were dressed in black Nazi-style uniforms, and lacked male genitalia. Gittinger told me to take a look at the genitalia of one of them, and it looked like a Ken doll. A fleet of UFOs with NASA stamped on their shell were stored on an underground conveyor belt system at Pine Gap.
A great deal of secret experimentation has gone on in underground installations with genetics. This author has had the privilege of debriefing someone who worked at the Area 51 underground installation. He was murdered after having had several long interviews with this author. Truth is stranger than fiction. It goes without saying that the Illuminati has gathered up every harebrained idea for controlling and manipulating the human race. That doesn't mean every one of them has been attempted, but they have the means to carry out very bizarre experiments in their underground facilities, such as the ones at Area 51. There is no question that they have tried to augment natural human features and replace natural human parts. Who knows what weird transgenetic or cybernetic beings have been created. This author knows that they have been successful in some of their work at reshaping humans. This author has accumulated a great deal of information on the underground installations from eyewitnesses, but there is no way of knowing what is accurate and what is disinformation. However, a few details are definite. These underground installations are massive and may involve genetic manipulation to create new species or breed special types of people. The NWO has been secretly creating chimeras. Chimeras is the widely used name for beast men. This research is generally not for the public to see but is done in some of the underground facilities listed in Appendix 2. An example would be a creature that was half human and half some other beast.
The elite Jason scientists operated out of Dulce in the USA and Pine Gap in Australia. DNA and reproductive materials collected from child victims at the CIA research facility at Ansto in Lucas Heights were stored in liquid nitrogen flasks and transported to Pine Gap in Central Australia for use in the Jason Super Soldier genetic engineering project. One thing that they do that is very advanced, almost mind-bogglingly advanced, is genetic manipulation and crossbreeding of humans. Both Jesse and Cisco report that the Illuminati Brotherhood is secretly creating human-animal hybrids, called chimeras. They are breeding humans with birds and other animals, as well as inserting DNA into humans that normally would belong only to a fish. For example, Area 51, Dreamland, Groom Lake, NV, Area 51 is also known as Dreamland. There are a number of extensive underground facilities in the area. This was one of the first genetic research facilities in the US, and perhaps the first major genetic research facility. The people/workers and victims are brought in by airplane and tube shuttle. The worst cases of UFO/alien type of monarch programming are coming out of Area 51. The eggs from slaves are being harvested and weird genetic creatures are being developed from human eggs which have been genetically mixed with other things.
This security officer, Barry King, witnessed many of the strange things I saw in Project Mannequin. Not least, small military bio-robots that are part machine and part organic, known as PLS, programmable life forms. These are short, gray-colored beings used for many projects. The PLFs are developed in 3 stages, and each stage has its own section in the base. There are up to 500 stored at any one time, and these are used in the AL/499 and also shipped to various military bases in this country and overseas. The development between stages is rapid and is approximately 3 months. Depending on what the PLFs are being used for, they have 3 fingers and a thumb, and some have 4 fingers and a thumb. The basic MK Delta model was a mind-controlled human whose abilities were enhanced through hypnosis, drugs, sensory deprivation, esoteric means, etc. Another model had abilities enhanced through biochipping, bionics, and genetic modification using animal DNA. Many of these larger underground constructions are constructed in or connect to already existing massive natural cave systems. There are huge tunnel and cave systems running underneath the surface of the entire Earth. There are natural cave systems, border tunnels, underground military bases, vacuum-sealed super-transport tunnels, underground scientific research institutions, catacombs of historic buildings, subway and train tunnels, secret community tunnels, and underground railway tunnels. The world is made up of tunnel systems that go all the way back to Babylon. Below the Earth's surface there are tunnels, some nearer the surface and some way below the surface, very very deep. Most of us are aware that there are tunnels that carry sewage, street water runoff and other waste either towards a water treatment plant or the ocean for removal from cities, but that's only the very first level of tunnel systems. Deeper than that are tunnels for the deep underground military bases, DUMs, and a level even deeper are tunnels used by the system, specifically by the protectors. Underneath Texas, and connecting to Florida and California are ocean water-filled tunnels that submarines can travel through, which are used to transport children and adults in human trafficking. These were built by the Luciferians specifically for this purpose. In some of the tunnel systems that the system uses exclusively for themselves are booby traps, located in a device that looks something like a decommissioned Poseidon missile, which is filled with biological weaponized compounds, things like smallpox and Ebola. Jesse was told as a child that they would be set off if the location was discovered. In the deepest tunnel systems are born and bred generations of children who never lived to see the light of day. Their skin is very translucent, and their pupils are very large and black because of the scarce lighting. The system calls them the mole children, or the black-eyed children. Many national parks and Indian reservations are used for these above top secret underground facilities. For example, there is an extensive underground CIA/Nazi/NWO base in Glacier National Park, Montana, which connects to Canada. The CIA Nazis used stolen Tesla technology to create artificial anti-gravity fields around Glacier National Park, the nearby Blackfoot Indian Reservation and many other locations throughout the world. There are hundreds of satellites orbiting the Earth that project high-intensity positively charged laser beams to certain areas on the Earth. The New World Order Nazis use these beams not only as weapons, but also to transmit power to levitating aircraft, flying discs and various other stolen Tesla technologies below. The absorptive properties of the levitating aircraft allow their utilization of energy beamed from orbital plasma generators, optimally transmitted when the stealth aircraft are themselves plasma cloaked for optical and radar invisibility, giving off only infrared light. A hazardous byproduct of these space-based laser beams is radon gas. Radon is said to be an invisible gas that causes cancer and leukemia in humans and animals, but if you ask the US government about radon gas you will not get a straight answer. Native Americans on the nearby Blackfoot Reservation have suffered from extremely high rates of cancer and leukemia since the 1950s. The US government says that nothing is wrong and there is no reason to be concerned, yet suffering communities must be informed of the true cause of their severe ailments.
Hidden high atop the mountainside along Going to the Sun Road at more than 6,600 dulms is the secret tunnel entrance to an extensive underground Nazi CIA facility, 48.7474 DGN, 113.76 243 In the above satellite image, the larger circle denotes the hidden rock facade entrance and the smaller circle denotes the position of camouflaged guards. The secret tunnel descends more than 2 miles to a giant hollowed-out industrial complex below the mountain. This huge underground city base connects Montana to Canada just north of the national border at the cleverly named International Peace Park. This underground base is where the CIA keeps its stolen Holocaust trillions and tests its most secret New World Order black projects, including Tesla's flying disc, optically invisible aircraft, and other stolen Tesla technologies. Operations at the base include maintenance and deployment of stealth drones. Glacier National Park was the first national park to have railroad access at the time, a necessity for all large-scale underground military-industrial construction. This enabled the THEM to transport the rumored Nazi gold train of stolen Holocaust loot from Montauk, NY to the secret base located inside the mountain. On the promontory above the secret tunnel entrance, there is a strange-looking outcropping of rocks that at certain times of the day looks like a grizzly bear, hence the name Grizzly Peak. The CIA uses this secret tunnel route to illegally smuggle drugs, guns, SS Nazi war criminals, and dignitaries into Canada without stopping at any border crossings. The secret tunnel entrance to the underground base is hidden behind a remote-controlled, movable rock wall located in the side of the mountain on Going to the Sun Road, shown in Scorzeni's photograph, just north of Grizzly Peak and the Weeping Wall. In the far background, the Garden Wall can be seen, and at far right is the base of Haystack Butte. The tunnel entrance, shadowed overhang circled, bottom right, was cut out of the bedrock by precision laser to prevent any possible discovery. When the base is active during the summer months, there are armed and camouflaged guards hiding on the mountainside, upper left corner, surrounding the secret tunnel entrance. The Nazi New World Order keeps its stolen Holocaust, trillions and stolen Tesla technology secretly hidden inside this hollowed-out mountain facility, providing access only to the New World Order elite.
The SR-71 Blackbird, B-2 stealth bomber planes and anti-gravity flying discs are constantly hovering just below 200 in the skies above Glacier National Park and the Blackfoot Indian Reservation. This explains why commercial flights are forbidden to fly below 200 in Glacier National Park, and why no one is allowed to bring firearms into the park for protection against the aggressions of the resident grizzly bears. There are many more secret CIA bases at other national parks around the country, including the Grand Canyon. These planes are optically invisible and make no audible sound at all. The SR-71 et al. Are periodically brought into the secret underground hangars located in the hollowed-out mountain below Grizzly Peak on Going to the Sun Road. These levitating airplanes are slowly lowered into the waters of Lake McDonald in Glacier National Park, seen above. The planes are capable of traveling underwater like submarines for short distances. Once the planes are submerged in Lake McDonald, they travel to the underground/underwater hangars inside the hollowed-out mountain. Once inside the underground hangars, the planes are serviced. There is a giant elevator inside the mountain that brings the planes up to a full-size hidden runway inside the mountain. During the night, when Going to the Sun Road is closed, A large camouflaged section of the mountain is briefly opened for aircraft to exit the facility. Once the plane has left the mountain base, the secret runway bay doors are closed. Otto Skorzeny presented the photograph below, taken on August 27, 1997, describing the hidden stealth technologies active around Glacier Park's Lake McDonald. Skorzeny pointed out the flat, squared rock as being a hidden flat panel radar array, circle, one feature among several secret installations enabling covert surveillance of the sensitive airspace. The disc-shaped cloud, upper left, is actually a plasma-cloaked stealth disc aircraft silently hovering above the CIA boat. Photos of cloud-enveloped discs are well known in UFO circles. The U.S. government claims that SR-71 Blackbirds and hangars are wet because they expand and shrink while flying, thereby causing condensation buildup. That line is disinformation. Stealth planes spray mists of water on themselves while flying to create the illusion of optical invisibility by interaction with the electrified aircraft shell. Water vapor is used by stealth planes to disguise the aircraft in a white-colored artificial cloud that, when ignited, forms a plasma mirage envelope for complete optical cloaking. To use the words of Otto Skorzeny, the stealth planes are like flying ozone generators. This advanced application of HHO plasmas derived from water allows the planes to be lowered through the waters of Lake McDonald or other lakes around the U.S. to secret underwater/underground CIA facilities. The term bloodliner has been applied to psychopathic victims of generational sexual abuse, as in the case of the SCRFs, a designation that may be supported scientifically by a genetic predisposition to psychopathy among males with the U chromosome, rare exceptions to the predominant Xi. Otto Skorzeny exposed a multi-generational human reproduction experiment for the Fourth Reich repopulation of North America with secret subterranean Aryan populations exceeding 20 million. Skorzeny reported himself to be one of the elite inseminators for the vast human reproduction experiment, now in its sixth decade, being conducted at the secret Nazi base in Glacier National Park, Montana and elsewhere below the bedrock of America. Hitler's entire Nazi Third Reich of 50,000 plus have been living in secret underground bases throughout the United States, Canada, England, France and Italy ever since the supposed end of World War II. Hitler and his entire Third Reich of Nazis have been actively planning for their New World Order or Fourth Reich in America at these secret underground bases. The initial 50,000 Nazis have been reproducing like rabbits for the last 58 years. It is estimated that there are now more than 20 million Nazis living in America above ground and below ground in secret New World Order bases. The 20 million does not include the millions more who are secret Nazi sympathizers. American citizens are forbidden to enter these U.S. government-sponsored New World Order Nazi bases under penalty of death. Secret bases include Area 51, NV, Camp Hero Montauk, New York, Las Cruces, New Mexico, Wright-Patterson Underground Air Force Base, Ohio, and the secret hollowed-out mountain base in Glacier National Park, Montana. The secret entrance to the Glacier Park, Montana base is circled above.